Now broadcasting live. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining the Small Business Bootcamp and Resource Collective. Today, we are excited to be here. We want to start off by thanking, first, I'm Robert Theobald, the Small Business Ombudsman and Vice President of Small Business Services. I'm glad to be your host today. We want to start by thanking all of our community partners. We could not do these bootcamp sessions without them. They've been very helpful and we appreciate all their support. So a Small Business Bootcamp and Resource Collective is designed to help small businesses return from the COVID crisis stronger than ever. It is a statewide initiative supported by all of our community partners, and it is a daily boot camp that we are continuing on through July, and we will continue to update our Resource Collective as well. So a Small Business Boot Camp has been going on Monday through Friday since the beginning of May. We're in our 11th week of providing content to support small businesses to help them grow stronger and prepare and return from the COVID crisis. Along with that, our community partners and their presentations have been providing great resources, and we have that content here on our Resource Collective page on our website. So today's topic is PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program, loan forgiveness. And tomorrow we'll have our how to produce your own marketing videos. This week we've had some great sessions on engagement, branding, how to make every pitch count with your brand, and overcoming obstacles in your business. And again, today we've got our PPP forgiveness session. So quick updates, as most of you know. If you don't, want to share that. The PPP program has been extended, and there's still a lot of funds remaining. Been extended through August 8th. So if you don't have a Paycheck Protection Program loan, you still can apply for that and receive a loan. Arizona, between the PPP and the EIDL loans, we've received about $11 billion in funding, which is awesome. One note we do want to mention, with the EIDL loan program, there was the EIDL Advance, and the EIDL Advance program has concluded. However, the EIDL loans are still available as well, and you can apply for those on the SBA website. So the ACA provides a lot of resources for small businesses. One, our small business services can help support navigating through the SBA and working with the small business development centers, the SBDC. Our workforce division can help support employers as they're looking to hire staff or provide additional training for your staff. And our Arizona MEP is our manufacturing extension partnership, and they are an excellent team and are here to support small manufacturing to medium manufacturers as they want to grow and expand their businesses. Just want a quick mention for the Arizona Together website. It's the state's website for COVID-19 information and resources. And on our Resource Collective, we have guides and resources to help your small businesses. These are just a sample of the items we have available for you. Whether you're in retail, construction, salon, restaurant, there's a guide or a resource for you that can help you with your business and the COVID crisis. For up to the minute information, with business resources regarding COVID-19, you can also access our website. We keep it updated as often as new information comes out. That is azcommerce.com, COVID/COVID-19. And today we have a few different speakers. We have Noah Gonzalez from Prestamos. CPLC is helping out, and so is Tom Fulcher from the Idea Gardener on our PPP session. So we are grateful for their quick response. We had to make some adjustments today, and they were able to, due to some unforeseen circumstances, and they were able to step in and help make sure that this session happens. So we appreciate their efforts. So at this time, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to turn the time over to Noah. He's going to share his presentation, and we're going to hear the great words from Noah and Tom on PPP.
Thank you very much, Robert. Thank you very much to the Arizona Commerce Authority in the name of Prestamos CDFI, a division of Chicanos por la Causa, for having us. Tom is going to be helping me to deliver this amazing presentation. We do apologize. Originally, my boss, Amber Cordova, was the one supposed to deliver. Unfortunately, due to certain circumstances, she was unable to attend. Can we start, Tom?
Yes, no, you're ready to go. Just
Thank you.
Load up your slide deck. Share your screen.
Thank you very much. Okay, first of all, thank you to all the for all the participants. We are going to try to be as brief and succinct as possible. The topic of today is Payroll Protection Program Loan Forgiveness under the new Flexibility Act. First of all, a little bit of housekeeping. Please wait to ask questions until the end of the presentation. Most of the questions will likely be answered during the presentation of the slides. I do apologize. This is the format we use to deliver this presentation on Prestamos CDFI, but if in this forum we have a different format, I'm more than glad to answer the questions as they come into the chat. However, most of the time those questions will be answered as we present the slides.
Yes, we just ask that the attendees please use the question and answer. And when the presentation is over, then we will jump in and go through the questions and answer as many as we can during the time we have for the Q&A at the end of the slide deck.
Thank you very much. The points that we are going to touch today, we are going to have a quick overview of the Payroll Protection Loan Program, the updated guidance for loan forgiveness, use of funds extension, forgiveness application timeline, the payroll requirement decrease, the loan maturity extension, the new safe harbor for full-time employees, the FICA deferment, and the updated easy application. At the end, we are going to have an overview of the Prestamos loan forgiveness process, which might be different from the one that you have at your financial institution or bank if you got it from other institution different than Prestamos CDFI. Let's go to start with the general forgiveness application. The original guideline from the SBA to achieve 100% forgiveness was that the small business owner should use at least 75% of the funds received from PPP for payroll expenses and no more than 25% from rent, utilities, and other eligible expenses. So what it happens is that the Congress, as they extended the PPP and made the modifications, they moved this ratio. Now you are eligible to use up to 40% for eligible expenses, mainly rent and other utilities, and at least 60% for payroll or owner's compensation in the case of independent contractors, self-employed people, and any others that might have obtained their PPP using their Schedule C. Sometimes people ask, well, and if I use 80% or 90% or 100% on payroll, yes, that's good, that's correct. The situation on this modification is because many small business owners were somehow pressing the politicians saying, look, we understand that you want us to spend as much as possible on payroll, but the situation that one of the big killers right now for business is rent. So we need more allowance for rent. So let it go. You can use up to 40% of the funds received from PPP to pay your rent and your utilities, and as far as you use at least 60% for payroll compensation, you'll be fine. You'll achieve 100% forgiveness. Now, what constitutes payroll? Yes, Tom?
Yeah, if I can just add to that, the 60% is a sliding number. In other words, if you do the calculation and let's say you've got a $100,000 loan and you've used $50,000 on payroll, what that means is now you divide 50,000 by 0.6 to get the maximum loan forgiveness. So It doesn't mean that if you've got 100,000 and you only use 50, you don't get forgiveness. It means the maximum forgiveness is adjusted to where that payroll amount is 60% of that total.
That's correct. Thank you very much, Tom. And actually, that's a really easy calculation. Whatever is the amount you receive on PPP, just multiply on your calculator for 0.6, and that's the minimum amount you are supposed to use for payroll. The rest, or you can also get the total amount you receive for PPP and multiply by 0.4, and that's the max amount you are supposed to use for rent and utilities. I think I said it backwards. Is 60% minimum. 60% minimum for payroll. Okay, so next slide. What is considered payroll expenses? Payroll expenses is any amount paid with W-2 to employees, salary, hour wages, commissions, similar, cash tips, payment for leave, sick time, even vacations. The employee benefits payments, including health insurance that you have on place, along with the retirement contributions as of February 15, also qualify as a payroll expense. We have received some calls of people saying, well, I didn't have health insurance on my people before February 15, but now I want to add them. Is going to be eligible? And the answer is no. The guideline from the SBA says that the money should be used consistently as it was used as of February 15 this year. So whatever benefits you had in place as of February 15 are still eligible for forgiveness right now. The payments of state and local taxes also apply for local forgiveness. The ones that are not going to be considered payroll expense is your federal taxes. The Social Security, the federal unemployment, and I think I'm missing one, Tom.
Yeah, it's the food and FICA. Basically, state and local payroll taxes are allowable. Federal payroll-related taxes are not.
That's correct. In a clear 2 sentences, that's it.
Now, keep in mind, depending if you are an owner, and that ranges from the S corps all the way through other types of ownership, and we can deal with this in Q&A. There are different rules that apply to you. You know, and if you are in a Schedule C, as an example, you don't add your retirement and those types of things because it's a simple calculation, and it's different for an S corp and a C corp ownership, and we can cover that during Q&A.
That's
real quick, guys. Noah, could you expand your screen? We've had a couple people ask to expand it because it's hard to read the slides.
Into slideshow mode.
Give me a sec. Give me a sec, okay? I'm new on this Zoom thing. Give me a sec.
And while you're doing that, I saw a question I'll address real quickly. Someone asked about Schedule C businesses with no employees. Schedule C and Schedule F, you just use, if you're using the 8-week forgiveness period, it's just 8/52 of your 2019 net earnings for the owner. If you're using the 24-week period, it's 2.5 divided by 12 for the owner's portion of payroll. And this is just for the payroll capture owners. But it's capped, even in the 24-week period, at $20,833. If you use the 8-week period, that owner's compensation is capped at $15,385. So Schedule C and Schedule F filers are a little different than others. There you go.
Thank you, Tom and Noah. That looks great on the slides.
Thank you very much, Tom. Actually, that's an important consideration because that's correct. The independent contractors, the self-employed, the people that use Schedule C to get their PPP, number one, they have a cap, and number two, the calculation is made using the formula line 31 of Schedule C divided by 52, which is the number of the weeks we have in a year, multiplied by 8. So basically, that's the equivalent of 8 weeks of self-compensation for independent contractors and self-employed people. As Tom was saying, there is any compensation in excess of $100,000 per year showing on the line 31 is going to be capped at that point. For example, somebody is saying, oh, I made $150,000 on my Schedule C line 31. Look, well, yes, but it is not going to go, the calculation is not going to go any dollar over $100,000. So the maximum a person can receive from PPP using the aforementioned formula is going to be $15,385. And that's for the 8-week period. There is some people that is not eligible for this situation, for this PPP money. For example, compensations to individuals whose principal residence is outside the United States. We have a case of a person that says, well, we have this company here based on the United States. We import avocados from Mexico. And one of our employees is living right there in Mexico, and we pay with dollars, yes, but the situation is that this employee is not living in the United States, therefore is not eligible for PPP. Another situation we have been seeing often, sometimes people says, oh, I have employees, but I pay them with 1099. Well, first of all, with all due respect, but in tax language, if it's 1099, is not your employee, is your contractor. So therefore, that person can apply for himself or herself to the PPP, but you cannot apply for them and get the money to cover those obligations you might have with them. The employer portions of Medicare, Social Security, and FUTA are not covered either by the PPP forgiveness. Why? Because, well, this is federal money and it's kind of circling the money back and forth. So my guess is that federal government wanted just to make sure that the people keep on their obligations with their own money. Something to add, Tom, right here to this slide I just talked about?
As far as the rent and lease?
As far as the cover and non-cover expenses for PPP forgiveness?
Yeah, well, again, it varies by type. In terms of the Schedule C and F filers, non-payroll are limited to the extent that they're deductible versus other types of filers. And there's a lot of conversation about what is, for example, utility. Transportation as a utility has yet to be defined fully by the SBA, and I would just defer to your CPA because different CPAs seem to have different opinions on that, and definitely speak with your lender on how they're viewing it.
Thank you very much, Tom. I completely agree. So we received a fair amount of calls, people asking, what is considered in the rent lease payment? Any amounts that are included in the lease agreement, such as monthly rent, CAMs, some people got included right there on their rent leases, certain services like the trash, the sewer, the water, some others don't. But as far, if it's on the lease, it's covered. A question we got very often, can a home office be considered in loan forgiveness? Yes, but it's a tricky situation because the expenses for home office that are eligible are the portion of the mortgage interest that you are paying, utilities, rent. There must be a designated area in the home that is used only for business and nothing else. And then you need to prorate that area of the home that you are using for the forgiveness process. Most of the people with this question is most usually is independent contractors or people that work from home. Again, self-employed people. So the easy way to go, and that's the way we are going to process these forgiveness applications, is like, look, you receive, let's say, for example, $10,000 on PPP, okay? And you are supposed to use at least 60% of wages, but as independent contractor, you are not forced to use the 40% on rent and utilities. You can use 100% on self-compensation. So our advice, and this might be different from your particular bank, but in the case of the people that got the money for Prestamos, we are advising this. Look, if you receive, for example, $10,000 on PPP, divide those $10,000 in 10 equal amounts. Then pay yourself one check per week with a clear notation on the check memo for owner's compensation PPP. Then cash out the check or deposit the check into your personal account, savings account, some other account. At the end of the 10-week period, when it comes the time to ask for forgiveness, the proof that we are going to require from you to support the forgiveness application is going to be the copy of those 10 cashed out checks along with bank statements. That's it. Then you don't need to do the calculations on the space that you use out of your house for the office and the prorate of the amount of electricity you use for your business. I mean, it's a complication. We are trying to simplify the process for both the PPP recipients and for us that we are going to process these loan applications.
And Noah, you could also on home office, if you have a financial advisor or CPA, if you're working with SBDC or one of the other organizations that help, discuss the idea of paying yourself rent. And you probably want to go back and pay yourself rent starting in January, because that becomes a little more simple than trying to just do the home office calculations. But it is an option to consider with your financial advisor.
Actually, I think that's an excellent advice. And this is the situation, audience. In banking and any deal we have on business, is not what I say, is what can I prove with documents? What can I document? If I can document it, most likely I can prove it. But if I don't have a way to prove my assertion of my expenses, it's hard. I mean, we know that most of the people, most of the time says the truth, but unfortunately the SBA wants to see documents. So let's try to keep it simple. And yes, actually we advise to have a close relationship with your tax advisor, your CPA, your bookkeeper, whomever is a certified and competent person on the field to help you out with taxes and accounting. Now, a little definition on the expenses eligible for PPP forgiveness. What is considered an utility? Water and sewer, electricity, telephone, including cell phone, internet, gas, if you have, for example, a facility that runs on gas. Transportation is a little bit tricky. We don't have a clear definition yet from the SBA about transportation. So I'm advising you keep on the receipts on which we have the clear definition. If you can prove transportation, try to keep receipts as well, but it is going to be somehow tricky. We are not sure yet to this point. Every single bill that you bring to the PPP application for support should have been on contract prior February 15th, 2020. So for some of them, you will need to provide two receipts, the one covering the month of February, the one covering the periods on which the PPP money was used. What is not eligible? Janitorial cleaning services, even though might be part of your monthly expenses. Pest control, even though you pay month after month. The grease trap removal in the case of the restaurants and similar businesses is not eligible expense. The HOA association fees, the insurance, the IT services. One person called the other day saying, well, I've had the IT guy giving maintenance to my website for like 2 years, it was prior to February 15th, and he charged me every month. And he does my social media for me as well. Yes, but it's not considered an utility. Again, mileage gas for vehicles is forgivable. We are not clear on this one from the SBA yet, so I take that one with a lot of caution. Now, what happened with the people that came early for the PPP? Originally, the guidelines from the SBA was saying that they had, or they were supposed to use those monies from the PPP in a time window of 8 weeks. Some people did. Some people was saying, well, how you want me to spend this money in only 8 weeks if the economy is down? Maybe I have, I don't know, a beauty salon. I'm literally closed and I don't have employees. So what the Congress did on June the 4th and the federal government altogether was like, okay, so we are going to modify that. So instead of 8 weeks, now we are going to give you 24 weeks to use those monies. That way you have more time to utilize the funds, the economy is going to start reopening, and you can little by little, hopefully, bringing back all your employees to work. The people that got those original contracts for 8 weeks, at least for Prestamos, we are going to have the option to move it to the 24-week term. So if you didn't spend the money that you got at the beginning of the program in 8 weeks, no worries. My assertion from what we have been hearing from other banks is that it's going to be more or less the same. Most of the banks and financial institutions are able and willing to work with you on this term, because most of us, the consensus is that it's really hard for someone to receive money on given the current economic situation and spend it in only 8 weeks. There is another situation with these changes on the legislation. Originally, there was only 2 years, the portion that is not forgiven on the PPP. I'll give you a scenario. We got this client that got PPP, and this person said, look, I know that opening a drive-through in my restaurant is not an eligible expense, but it's the only thing I can do to survive right now. So I'm going to use the money for that. I'm going to modify my facilities to open a drive-through. Is that an eligible expense? No. Okay. So what is going to happen? Well, that's going to convert to a normal loan with 1% interest rate. You still have 6 months with no payments and 2 years to pay whatever is not forgiven. So what happens with the portion? Yes, Tom?
A couple quick comments where you're at. The 8-week or 24-week, if you got your loan prior to June 5th, it is a borrower decision. You don't need approval. It's completely up to you as the borrower on that. The only time I've seen it make sense, frankly, for people to do the 8 weeks is if they are trying to quickly clear, get forgiveness as quick as possible to clear their capital so they can, secure another loan. Keep in mind, the SBA has not yet provided lenders a methodology and process to seek forgiveness and submit forgiveness through the SBA. So even if you were to submit today, good luck. The lenders can't necessarily get it done quite yet. Also, today is a magic date. Anyone out there that has not been dispersed to PPP, you can ignore 24 weeks because 24 weeks from today is December 31st. So any loan dispersed today or later, the date is December 31st on that. So, just wanted to highlight those two things on the 8-week versus 24-week period.
And actually, that's correct. Thank you very much, Tom. Actually, that's correct. Our general suggestion is to keep in touch, in constant communication with your bank or financial institution to which you got your PPP loan. Because even though the Small Business Administration guidelines are the same for everybody, every single bank and financial institution might have different particular rules on how to apply this to their structure and their clients. Okay, so basically the highlight of this is that now if if some portion, any portion of the PPP that is not forgivable, now it's a 5 years to pay for it with a 10-month deferment. However,
that will depend on the lender.
Yes.
Where the 8-week, 24-week period is up to you as a borrower, converting a 2-year loan to a 5-year loan is a negotiation with the lender. And I can tell you, I know for a fact, not all lenders are interested in doing that. And also backing up to something else Noah shared, nothing in the Flexibility Act changed the allowable use of funds. There's forgivable and allowable. Forgivable, we've already touched on. The only additional allowable is retirement of paying the interest, on other debt. That's not a forgivable, but it is an allowable, as are paying other payroll before and after the period. Any use of funds outside of the allowable can be considered fraud. So you do need to make sure that even if you're spending the money later, it still has to be on allowable expenses.
That's correct. That's correct. And I was just to finish the story, the scenario I was giving you on this restaurant operator. As soon as this person opened their drive-through, business start coming. So he brought first one cook back, then another a part-timer back. And then after 4 weeks, he was again with kind of, I think 4 out of the 6 original employees he got back in February. So he called again and says, look, now I have these workers, and I was, congratulations. Now you are generating your W-2s. Now you can prove that the money, one way or the other, was used to cover your payroll, your W-2s. So the important thing right here is, as Tom said, be very careful on how you are going to use the money. At the end of the day, it's very difficult for a banker or the SBA to be after you on how you are going to use the money. But the idea is that this is a payroll protection program. The original spirit of the law of the program was to cover payroll. And as Tom said, if you use it for something that is not an eligible expense, you might be in a liability, especially if it's something completely unrelated, like personal credit cards or a cruise to the Bahamas. I don't know. We got to be really careful with those ones. 60%, we already mentioned this, 60% of the PPP loan should go towards eligible payroll. When it's owner's compensation, that's a decrease from the original 75%. This is an all or nothing rule. At some point, if you said, well, I use 50% only for W-2s or self-compensation, and I use the other 50% for rent, because the rent was killing me and I didn't want it to get evicted. Well, there is a 10% right there that is not eligible, is beyond the 40% of the eligible expense. However, you are going to get, in this example, 90% forgiveness, and the other 10% is going to convert again to a normal loan that you will need to see with your particular lender how you are going to negotiate that to pay it back, depending if you were on the 8-week to the 24-week. As Tom well said, is on every lender how they are going to apply the rule of the 8-week to the 24-week. Is not automatic. Is not automatic, and is at the discretion of the lender to negotiate with the borrower. However, I think most, maybe not all, but most financial institutions might want in good disposition to at least talk to you regarding this situation. As Tom said, now you have until December 31st, 2020 to restore your full-time employee count that you have on the pre-COVID situation. That's the count, as we all remember, is going to be considered taking the numbers or the number of full-time employees that you had as of February 15th of 2020. There is an exception in forgiveness reduction. That's part of the safe harbor, the full-time employee safe harbor modification. There are 2 exemptions. The first one is an inability to rehire individuals who were employees of the borrower on February 15, 2020, and 2, the inability to hire similarly qualified individuals for unfilled positions on or before December 31st. The borrowers must provide a written offer to the employee to restore the reduced hours, the same salary wages, same hours, and must maintain a written copy of rejection by employee. Borrowers are required to inform the applicable state unemployment insurance office of any employee's rejected rehire offer within 30 days of the employee's rejection of the offer. Again, documentation. You might want to use the FTE safe harbor to get your forgiveness. However, you need to document that you have a good reason for not bringing back those employees back to work for you. Most of the small businesses we deal with, honestly, they might not have that situation on which they are going to say, oh, I have a cook, I call him back to work and I was unable to replace the cook, or I was unable to replace the hairdresser or the worker I have on my landscaping business, because usually they are not specialized positions. This is more for specialized positions. However, let's go for this scenario. You have somebody working for you as of February 15th. Then for the due to COVID-19, the economy closed down your business, okay? Then you reopen your business and you are calling this ex-employee back to work for you. And he says no. How you are going to document that? Well, the idea is to send a written notification of the ex-employee that you want him back to work. You can do that via email. You can do that via letter with a USPS certification. At the worst case scenario, you want at least a text message. And hopefully that person answers to you. And if he says, no, thank you, we have cases on which people is saying, hey, my people don't want to get back to work because they say they are making more unemployment than they are going to make if they work for me. Well, if that's the case, unfortunately, you will need to notify within 30 days as per SBA guidelines that this person is refusing to go back to work for you. So you need to keep both documents. First, the document you send this person asking to go back to work. Second, the document on which you notify the unemployment office on your state that this person refused to go back to work for you. Tom, something you want to add to this slide?
I think there's a lot of safe harbor around FTE, and it is critical because it defines what application you end up using, and believe me, you want to be able to use the easy application, but the Flexibility Act gave you a lot of time. Just remember, it's not an individual. It doesn't matter if Mark left and didn't come back and you hired Robert instead. It's a job. It's not an individual. And so, yeah, the other key is documenting it, most importantly in writing.
That's correct. So the procedure after this person refused to work and you send the letter to, or the communication nowadays is electronic communication to the unemployment agency in your state, is that you need to post a help sign somewhere to which you can also document. If you can do it on one of the websites that is dedicated to connect possible employees with employers, or maybe to your board on one of the organizations we have across the states, or even your local newspaper. But the idea is that you need to document it, as Tom said. You don't have to rehire the person that was working for you on February 15th if it's not available. The idea is just to cover the position that you need to cover in order to generate the W-2, and that way to justify that you use the money for the intended funds, but for the intent of the program, I'm sorry. There is another safe harbor situation that I want to share with you. There is another exception. The exception says, inability to return to the same level of business activity as the borrower was operating at before February 15, 2020, due to compliance with requirements established or guidance issued between March 1st, 2020 and December 31st, 2020 by the Secretary of Health and Human Services, the Director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, or the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or related to the maintenance of standards for sanitation, social distancing, or any other situation that the workers or that involves workers or customer safety requirement related to COVID-19. And the classic example for this one is restaurants, because as we all know, some restaurants might or might not be able to go fully 100% capacity as of December. So what we are recommending for the clients of Prestamos, again, keeping in close touch with your financial institution on which you got your PPP, is that if for some reason you need it, or you will need to keep your restaurant, for example, at only 50% capacity, and therefore you are not going to be able to rehire the 10 workers you have on February, like your cooks and all your waitresses, because now you have diminished capacity, just go to the website of the CDC or the health department of your state, your jurisdiction, download the letter with the guidelines saying that restaurants are not allowed to full capacity. And I do apologize a little bit. I'm talking to you from Nevada. And in our market, we got clear guidelines for restaurants on how to operate. So download that documents and keep them to you. So if for whatever the reason you cannot bring at least 80% that of the employees you had as of February 15th, you can document, and then you can apply for forgiveness using the safe harbor rule. Do you want to add something to this, Tom?
No, you've covered it pretty well. It's all, are you able to do it? Just keep in mind, you can still fire people for cause, and that's a safe harbor exception. And just be careful. We're only talking here, this is not legal advice, right? We're only talking about PPP forgiveness. This has nothing to do with, the legal aspects of ADA or NORB or any other reasons why people may choose to not come back to work. Robert, you popped in, did you need to do something?
No, I just, great comments on that. Just a reminder we do have guidelines that people can download for your different businesses. Restaurants have their guidelines, et cetera, salons. So if you were impacted, as Noah mentioned, that those guidelines are available for Arizona. Restaurants right now are impacted 50% capacity. So it was great to share that, because we are, again, some of you are seeing those impacts.
Thank you very much, Robert. And I want to encourage all the audience to go for those resources, download those resources, read them, try to understand them, make questions, because this is the situation. Now more than ever, it seems like the small business owner community needs to complain with more agencies than usual. I mean, there are regulations coming from everywhere and might look like a maze, but there are plenty of resources available to help you to successfully navigate that maze and keep your business alive. At the end of the day, all of us that we are right here, our mission is to keep your business alive, and your vision is that you are going to be doing better in the future than you are doing right now. So please reach out for those resources, download them, and if you have questions, please feel free to go ahead.
Noah and Tom, I would like to go through this easy application real quick. Couple slides you have, and then jump into the Q&A. We've got about 15 minutes left, and we've got about 10 questions at this point. And in looking through them, they're very good questions that we want to be able to answer. So
good. We are almost done with the PowerPoint, as a matter of fact. And yes, the easy application, the original application from the SBA was 11 pages. So thanks to all the people at the federal government level that they listen to the small business owners and simplify the process. So the easy application is going to be no more than 3 pages, and it's a really way easier application than the original one. Who's eligible for that? Number one, the self-employed with no employees. They are very, very that's the way to go for them. Basically, you are going to need only the copies of the use of funds that I spoke at the beginning, fill out the application, that's it. Any borrower that did not reduce salary or wages by more than 25%, did not reduce the average of employees or hours, or qualifies for the safe harbor exemption due to inability to rehire individuals or similarly qualified individuals. Or C, borrower that did not reduce annual salary or wages by more than 25% and did not reduce the average of employees or hours, or qualifies for the safe harbor exemption due to inability to operate at the same level due to the compliance requirements. So basically what it means is all people that qualify for PPP under Schedule C, line 31 as a independent contractor, self-employed people qualifies for this. If you did not reduce more than 25% on wages or the amount of people that works for you, you also qualify for this one. My estimation is that way more than 60, maybe 70% of the people will be able to apply for the for PPP forgiveness using the easy application. Something you want to add to this one, Tom?
No, I think you're right on. It's easy application. They made it pretty easy to qualify for, and it's definitely what you want to do. I'm grabbing the link right now and I'll stick it in chat so people can see it. But understand, whether it's easy or the original application, your lender will have their own version of that. You probably won't be using the actual SBA, but look at the SBA version and get familiar with it.
Yes,
so I know Noah is going to go through the Prestamos forgiveness process, but I want to jump in and go through some Q&A first. If we have time, we can touch on that.
Okay, good.
But one of the keys there, Tom, that you just mentioned is so important that, you know, for all those on the call, make sure you are in touch with your lender. We appreciate Prestamos for coming on and sharing their process and their information, but each lender will be a little bit different, and you need to make sure you are in contact with your lender for their process. So as we jump into the Q&A, I'm going to start from the top. And Yvette asked, the home office policy goes for employees who normally work in the office but are having to work at home as well, correct?
Could you please repeat the question?
Yes, the home office policy goes for employees who normally work in the office but are having to work from home as well, correct?
No, there's no home office deduction for your employees. For your employees, if you are giving them cash compensation because of that, the cash compensation counts, but there's no deduction because your employees were working at home.
Okay, thank you. And then Douglas asks, if 100% of the PPP was used for payroll expenses within the first 8 weeks, is there any reason not to file at the end of the 8 weeks?
If it was used, well, it needs to talk with his lender, but in the case of us, no, there is no reason. If he already spent the money in the first 8 weeks, he's ready to ready to provide the documentation, it should be ready to go. It should be ready to.
Robert, I think there's a rule out there. I'd have to look that if it can't be 100% payroll for the owner, but short of that, it should be fine.
Okay.
I would say, well, yes, that's true. It's a caveat right there. The caveat is, okay, it was W-2 or it was 100% Schedule C self-employee independent contractor. But in the case of Prestamos, if us an independent contractor, what we are asking for is, instead of 8 weeks, just to be on the safe side, distributed to 10 weeks, because we are going to be allowing our clients to go into the 52-week period, just to be on the safe side. But again, it needs to talk to his particular lender.
Okay, excellent. The next one from Sandy says, are safe harbor contributions made to the employee's 401k accounts considered eligible under the payroll expense?
I'm not sure what a safe harbor contribution is, but certainly retirement contributions, depending of course on entity type, but retirement contributions from employees are qualified payroll expenses. I'm not sure what the safe harbor piece has to do with it.
I know safe harbor in this way, maybe the term they're using for part of the 401k language. There's a type of 401k safe harbor that deals with the level of payroll and level of contributions for various people throughout the organization. So Sandy, on that, you'll definitely want to work with your bookkeeper or accountant on that to make sure that you're doing everything in the proper way, and then also communicate with your lender.
I'm not sure if I clearly understand the question, but this is my point of view. This is what the guideline says. Whatever percentage of money was in place as of February 15 for 401ks should be consistent after the PPP was used. So, for example, it was using, I don't know, 3% or 2%. Let's say this example, if she was using 1% for 401k on the W-2s as of February 15th, she cannot jump now to 2% or 3%. Gotta be still 1%, and it's going to be forgivable. It has to be consistent. Whatever it was the employer doing as of February 15th is the same way the money should be used after the PPP or during the PPP usage of funds. Hopefully I give an acceptable answer to that. But what Tom says is true. Work closely with your accountant, CPA, or tax advisor.
Okay. The next question is from David. It says, the CARES Act excludes from definition of payroll costs any employee compensation in excess of $100,000. Does that exclusion apply to all employee benefits of monetary value?
Yes, basically the cap is on the 100,000 gross, the way I understand it. Tom, do you think that's correct?
It varies. Again, this is impacted by your filing type. I saw a lot of questions, and Robert, I tried to answer some questions along the way here because I have a hard drop at 10 because of another workshop. But a lot of these questions are about LLC. Well, it depends. Are you filing as an S Corp or a Schedule C? So, it's hard to say. If you're a C Corp, for example, in addition to the salary cap, you add group health, state and local taxes, and retirement. If you're a Schedule C, you don't. So it varies by your entity type.
I have, I think, a short question for this. Whatever amounts and whatever schedule you are applying for, at least in our case, you are not going to get more than the $15,385 per employee. That's it. So basically the cap is at $100,000 net calculation. Tom is right. It really depends on what kind of filing you are doing. But at least in our case, it doesn't matter how much you do in other perks or some other cost added to the payroll, still is no more than $15,385 PPP money per employee on the 8-week period. Well, this is an old slide. Now you can use it on 24 weeks, but the idea is that you are not going to receive more than $15,385 per employee. Hopefully that helps to clarify.
All right, we're getting close to time. I know, Tom, you're going to have to jump off. We appreciate you jumping on and helping us on short notice. So when you take off, we'll understand. But Noah and I will try to continue to answer some more of these questions for another few minutes.
Robert, if I can make a quick comment.
Yes.
A few of them. First, 24 weeks is quite a long time. And if you take advantage of the 24 weeks, try not to get hung up on the, well, will this work? Will this expense? Because frankly, in 24 weeks, you should have enough expenses and payroll. Just don't worry about the ones that are muddy. You should be able to get there. You know, second, don't lose track of just doing what's right for your business first and foremost. That's the most critical thing, right? Do what's right for your business, your employees, your team, your customers. You know, the rest of this is mechanics at that point. Third, get help, whether you're reaching out to the ACA. SBA is kind of hard to reach, but you can try them, the SBDC, and SCORE, any of the other organizations out there. So, you know, just kind of keep those things in mind as you go through this. And I apologize again that I have to jump off. You know, you can reach me through the ACA or something if you need to. I've tried to post a lot of answers during the presentation in Q&A as well, so you can look at the answer questions, but thanks for the opportunity to join me.
All right, thank you, Tom. So we have a couple questions I'm going to jump down to. One is, how do we get the easy application? Will it be coming from the lender?
Every single lender is going to have their own easy application. Right now, it's just a document on paper from the SBA. In our case, for example, we are going to have an electronic format that we believe is going to be only a couple of screens, and that's it. Of course, every bank might be different. You need to tell what kind of format they are going to have for the easy application.
Go through a couple. There's one that says, now that the time has been extended to 24 weeks, does that mean we can request more PPP money to use for payroll for 24 weeks?
No, you can apply and receive only the PPP once. If you are still on a cash constraint situation, please try to reach your local lender, your financial institution. You might be able to get money, but it's going to be from different programs, different funds. PPP is only once per business owner.
And then we have one last question that we're going to be able to answer before we wrap up. It says, we had an employee that started to work with us on March 1st, 2020. Can we include their payroll, sales commissions, expenses?
It sounds to me like a salesperson. You can, if it's remember this, PPP forgiveness is based on W-2. You cannot add any other like gasoline or other type of compensation. There are certain employers that are adding like bonus for coming back to work, or there is nothing on the SBA that prevents you to give more wages or increase the wages to your employee as far as you can justify. But if you're asking for some other types of expenses that were not in place on February 15th, might not be eligible. The general rule is that you want to justify with your W-2 whatever amounts of money you are going to pay to your employees. Even if it's more than you pay before February 15th, not a problem, but justify with the W-2.
Yeah, I think on that one, it's important to remember that that's an employee, you're paying payroll for that person. So it should be forgivable, part of the forgivable portion. So that's all we have time for today. Noah, thank you for jumping on at short notice to help fill in for Amber. We appreciate you doing that. Thank you for sharing these slides with us. We want to thank all the attendees for being on. We appreciate your time this morning, and hopefully we're able to help answer your questions and provide some support for you as you're working through your PPP loan and the forgiveness process. We will have continued sessions with the boot camp tomorrow. We've got our great session. Look forward to seeing you all here at 9 a.m. On Friday morning. And with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up today's session. So thank you very much, Noe, again. And thank you all to all the attendees. Have a good day.
Thank you very much for having me. Nice day for everybody.